Welcome back to my channel. In this part I am going to take the cylinder heads apart. If you're new to this channel, check out the previous episodes in which I took the engine and gearbox out of the car, and assessed the damage done to it by the wrong use of liquid gasket. Today I am going to take the cylinder heads apart to see what damage is done to them. But first, let's take a look at the bare engine. Underneath the cover in the middle lives the infamous water pipe. The water pipe can start leaking at the front if you do not change the coolant every 2 years. This is one of the reasons these engines are not loved. It is very hard to get to when the engine is in the car, but not impossible. Replacing the pipe will cost about $2,000. This one is replaced already, but the egghead that did it didn't clean the coolant out of the cavity. What else is to come? Let's get started with those cylinder heads. First, I had them sitting in the parts washer overnight to get the gunk soften up. They really are dirty inside from oil residue and carbon. I call it carbon, but actually it is burned oil. If that's the same, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. It is not easy to get this cleaned up. A lot of patience and muscle, and hoping the cold degreaser will do the rest. I took the exhaust camshaft out for better access. Slowly but surely it is getting better. Note that the rockers and lifters are still in the cylinder head. At this very moment they are not in my way. In fact, the longer they are exposed to the cold degreaser, the easier it will be to really clean them up later. Here you have a close-up. It is really thick at some places and hard to get out. I am not going to scrape it off because I do not want to damage the inside. Like I said, patience, patience, and then some more patience. At this point I went out to the shop to get me some very fine steel wool. I have to stay careful though, after all it's aluminum, or, if you're in the United Kingdom, it's called aluminium. You never would imagine where I found it. It was in the same area of the store as stuff you use to refurbish wooden furniture. Before I left, I took the rockers and lifters out of the cylinder head. Even here are leftovers of liquid gasket present. It means that stuff will be present throughout the engine. I will show pictures of the 3 worst contaminated ones. This is a downright nightmare. In the second picture you see the oil hole is fully blocked up. It also means all oil channels in the cylinder head have to be cleaned out. The lifters themselves are pretty much a dead-end street. I do not expect any of that gunk has entered into the lifters themselves. If you know how the lifters are put together, you will agree the chances are very slim. The steel wool really did the trick. It is as clean as I can get it, and it will do. I do not have an ultrasonic cleaner. After all, it is just a hobby. I do invest in good tools though. So, one clean and one still to do. It does not mean I am ready. Actually, this is where the fun begins. Put in a few hours more and now I have 2 clean cylinder heads. I am quite happy how they turned out. Let's move on to the other side of the head. This has to be cleaned up as well. I took a nylon rotary brush, so I would not damage anything. Put it in my hand drill and started brushing at low speed. It did not take very long before I was satisfied. Took out the spark plugs and I must say I am very happy with this result. 1 down. 1 still to go. But I will concentrate on this head first. There is one more thing to take apart. The valves have to come out so I can inspect them. At the same time I can take a good look at the valve seals. These engines are known to have issues with low quality rubber used for the seals. This is what I found under the first one I took out. And this is what was in the cap of the seal itself. Well, you cannot call this a seal anymore. It is totally gone. I did plan on changing the valve seals, but I could not foresee they were in such a terrible state of deterioration. It all has to do with laws in Europe which forbid the use of certain product which makes the rubber soft, and keep it soft at high temperatures. None of the seals in the cylinder head were any good. The gunk which is under them makes a second pass in the parts washer necessary. I measured up the valve guides and they are within specification, which was a great relief. When all the valves were out, I took a good look at the valve seats. They look a bit rough and they feel the same way. Passed the cylinder head through the parts washer again and tried to clean up as much as I could. It did not make any difference for the valve seats. I did not want to give them the steel wool treatment because that can do more damage than I bargained for. The condition of the valves themselves I will show you somewhat later. First, I want to take a look at the channels which are used for the exhaust gas recycling system, better known as EGR. The EGR system is a terrible invention in my opinion and is prone to be blocked by carbon residue. Let me put it this way to explain the system. When you eat, the food is processed in your body. What's considered waste you get rid of on the toilet. You flush it, you don't eat it again. For the last 20 seconds or so you are looking at the point where the exhaust gas is put back into the cylinder head. It normally is a hole, but this one is fully blocked up. In this second picture you see it runs all the way along the cylinder head. There are very small channels going from this main channel to the regular intake just above the inlet valves. No surprise, these are blocked as well. The big channel was cleaned out quite easy, but for the small ones I had to make some special tools. These channels are just over 2 mm wide and the carbon in there was rock solid. By turning these special tools into the channel I am actually drilling through the carbon. Cannot use a drill though because I really can't tell if those channels are straight. By using iron wire there is some flexibility. It is really hard to take a good picture of those holes. They are located where you see the wire is going in. At the first hole I cleaned out I had no idea how deep they were. So when I really didn't make any progress anymore I stuck a small copper pipe in the big channel and in that way I could feel it stopped where the wire came through. I put a mark on the wire at the other side. This way I just knew when to stop. It took a while to get every channel open again. Later I learned that diesel fuel could soften up the carbon. I will try that next time. Here you see what came out of those channels. It is not everything, but it gives a pretty good idea how blocked up they were. I am well aware that the system will block up again when the engine is used the normal way. But now I'm at it, I want to have it working perfect once all is put back together. Now I can concentrate on the valves. Took them out of both cylinder heads and marked every valve's position in the head. That way they go back where they came from, which prevents unnecessary wear of the guides. After cleaning everything I did the same with the caps of the camshafts, the rockers and the lifters. These are also going back where they came from. Taking a closer look at the valves you can see there is quite a bit of rubbish on them. It is rock hard like a kind of glass. Soaking them in degreaser had no effect whatsoever. Also take a look at where the valve would seal against the valve seat. I cannot imagine this is making a good seal. In part 1 of the series I told you I did a compression test. It was not terrible but not good either. This may be one of the things causing the compression to be low. Cleaned up one valve. The process I used to get it clean was a bit daring. First I took a strip of lead and wrapped it around the stem not to damage it. Then put the stem in my column drill. Found me a scraper and I let it rotate at low speed, scraping the rubbish off as it turned. I was very cautious not to touch the stem itself. Then got some 1000 grit sandpaper and polished it up the best I could. Took some heavy grit grinding paste to grind the valve in its seat. Did that a few times and then switched over to a finer grinding paste. This is the result. I did give it one more go though. Look at the valve seat. It is now smooth again and it will make a perfect seal once more. Next valve to be worked on. I use an old-fashioned lapping tool. In fact, just a wooden stick with a rubber suction cup at the end. To be sure the lapping process does not harm the valve guide, I put some light machine oil on the stem before I start. It is labor intensive and I have seen people doing it with a hand drill. That way I have no control over the process. I rather take my time and do it the right way. Normally the valves are made out of stainless steel or at least a very hard kind of steel. In an aluminum cylinder head the valve seats are pressed in and made of the same material as the valves. That's why it takes time. In the meantime the second one is done as well. It took quite a while to do all 32 valves, and no, I won't go through the process of doing all the valves in this video. But then again, here they are all done and waiting to go back in the cylinder head. One thing though, at the time I did not have the new valve seals yet, so that had to wait. I like to know what I need before I order parts. That means I want to make just one order and maybe I have to wait a bit for the parts to show up, so be it. I am not running a business and I'm not pushed by an angry customer who wants his car back. Lucky me. This was episode 4. If you missed out on the previous videos, just go to my channel or click on the link in the description. If you did not subscribe yet, this is the moment. Stay safe and do not miss the next episode. Thanks for watching.